What is up, Abby here, welcome to Thomas's Friends Season 2 review. Since you guys like Season 1, then this will be a bit better. But not only that, we're talking about Season 2 and why people enjoy this season. Because to me, this season is something. Because of the little changes of this season as well. Speaking of changes, how about let's start off with the first seasons with changes in everything. This is the first season to be aired at Shepperton Studios after a 10th series. Season 12 will be aired at Shepperton Studios with the models and stuff. And finally, this is the last season to be narrated by Ringo Starr in the UK and the US before he can go back to making some music on his own. So with all that said, let's begin. First episode, Thomas, Percy, and Nicole. Thomas and Percy quarrel about proper colors of an engine, but both engines end up getting trouble with coal. I always liked Thomas and Percy's friendship in this, and they will continue to be friends in the next season as well. So all that said, 7 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, A Cow in the Line. Gordon and Henry teases Edward after some cows break part of his train away. But in the end, Edward has the last laugh. This is a great episode. I always laugh when George Carlin said this. But it sounds like he's throwing up or something. But with that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Bertie's Chase. Edward is impatient when Thomas does not show up with his train. Aware that Bertie is taking his passengers, leading him to chase. I like the chase theme music episode in this, and it was handled well. Especially for Bertie's theme, even though they remixed it, which I like. So, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Save from Scrap. Edward meets Trevor the traction engine at the scrapyard, tries to make him become useful again. We got Trevor for the first time, even though he liked children. So speaking with children out of the way, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Old Iron. James is fed up with Edward being late, but when the two boys fiddle with James' controls, Edward comes to his rescue. Also, there is a bonus fact. In the original story of Wilbur Audrey, the police arrested the boys who were then been walloped by their fathers. This scene was removed because of the child abuse, and I understand why they removed it. So, for this one, 9 out of 10 for a great episode. The next episode, Thomas and Trevor. Trevor does not work to do and proves to Thomas how useful he can be when he's some help at the harbor. I don't like Trevor's character when I first watched this, but after watching for a second time, I like it, even though he doesn't boast about it. So, with all that said, 7 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Percy in the Signal. Percy enjoys playing tricks, but Gordon and James makes a plan to pay him back. I like this episode, even for Percy as well. Also, can we take a closer look at James's face? Cause, oh boy, his face is about to fall apart.
You better!
Anyway, I like Gordon tricks Percy when he gets distracted by a signal. So all that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Duck Takes Charge. A new great western engine named Duck arrives on the island to help Percy and stop the big engines from pushing the smaller engines around. This is a great one. We've got introduced by Duck, aka Montague, and I also really like how Ringo Starr did a good job in this episode. His voice has some energy, some lines like this.
Silence! Damn!
I know, right? So all that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Percy proves a point. Harold the helicopter thinks that railways are slow and out of date, but Percy proves him wrong after winning him in a race. I do like this episode. It's a great race, like Thomas and Bertie's great race, even though the race theme was great in this. So 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, The Runaway. After a visit to and coming back for the works, Thomas's handbrake is very stiff and he soon becomes a runaway with his own branch line. This episode was good again with the runaway and Harold's theme tied up very well. So with that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Percy takes the plunge. Percy thinks that water is nothing to an engine with determination, but his mood soon changes when he passes a danger sign at the harbor. There's one problem with this episode. It's that Percy telling a story of how he promised to take the passengers home when it starts raining. So the episode called Percy's Promise should have aired first and then this one, because I don't know why they're going with it, because if you leave an episode that involved the next story of the main character trying to do bad things and end up doing like this, for example, then that's not the way how to show it. So as for this episode, I'll have to give it a 6 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Pop Goes to Diesel. A new engine named Diesel arrives in the trial to work with Duck and thinks that Diesel's engines know everything and do not need to learn, until he tries to take some trucks from a siding. This is a great episode, even with the song as well, while singing by the Troublesome Trucks. So with all that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Diesel's Thieves' Deed. Diesel gets revenge on Duck by telling lies about the big engines to the trucks, causing the Fat Controller to send Duck away. I give this one a bad episode due to how Sir Topomat should punish Diesel for telling lies about the big engines. But after watching a second or third time, I like it. It's a shame that Duck has sent away even though it was not his fault. So I'm giving this one a 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, A Close Shave for Duck. Duck helps with some troublesome trucks on Gordon's Hill, but when a train breaks away, the trucks chase after Duck until he crashes to a barber shop. Wow, this episode is really fast paced, isn't it? I like how some of the camera angle just stay and the trucks kept speeding up as well. To me, it didn't feel rushed at all. It felt like a fast paced episode if you ask me. So I'm glad that Duck is back from Sordor once again. So welcome back, Duck. In this episode, we'll give it a 9 out of 10 for a great episode. Next episode, Better Late Than Never. Repairs on the main line's viaducts are causing delay in the railway, which makes Thomas angry. But he learns that times when being late is not such a bad thing. After all, to be honest, I don't like Thomas's character in this. He feels so hot-headed and way too much. I mean, yes, we can all agree that Thomas could be a hot-headed person. At least he's not being bossy like Emily does. But what do I know? As for this one, 6 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Brake Van. Donald and Douglas are twin engines, whom the Fat Controller had brought from the Scotland to help out. Things do not go well for the boat engines due to a spikeball brake van. I guess a map so due to how the coach should have come before this been aired, cause we don't know who Donald Douglas is at this point. After watching a second time, I almost seem to give this one a good episode, rather than an episode leaving behind. Don't get me wrong, there are some good moments with Donald is mad with the brake van and push the brake van away. That got me laughing. So all that said, I'll give this one a 6 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, The Deputation. Donald and Douglas are worried that will be sent away in scrap, but after rescuing Henry from a snow under, Percy and the other engines try to help the twins out with a deputation. This is a great episode, even though it's not my number one favorites, but you'll see why. I'm giving this a great episode because of how the story works and Donald Douglas is allowed to stay on Sodor. And the one funny part I found when I started laughing is all the engines going nuts after when this final speech which Sir Topomat says. So all that said, 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Thomas comes to breakfast. Thomas thinks he can manage without his driver until he makes an unexpected visit to a station master's house one morning, which makes the Fat Controller angry. To be honest, Sir Topomat should have punished Careless Cleaner's fault because he meddled with Thomas' control earlier, so because Thomas never do that. I mean, why would he do that? It's not his fault. So I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. No, I mean it's 7 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Daisy. Daisy the diesel rail car comes to help with Thomas's branch line after Thomas is disposal and causes trouble with rude remarks towards the coaches and refusing to pull the milk tanker. I don't like Daisy's character after seeing it a second time. I don't understand why Daisy could be lazy at times like this where she wouldn't pull the milk tanker, because this fitter's orders and explains why pulling is a bad thing for Daisy. So I'll give this one a 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Percy's predicament. Percy and Toby agrees to swap jobs after Daisy refusing to take the milk tanker, which ends up putting the engines in an awkward predicament. This episode is awkward because of how Bullseyes should have aired first than this. Because from Bullseyes, we know that Daisy is scared of bulls in this episode. She is still scared of bulls and remains stubborn. So I'll give this one a 6 out of 10 for a good episode. If the crash wasn't there, then this should have been a 5 out of 10, but it ain't. Next episode, the Diesel. A pair of twin tank engines named Bill and Ben think that the Diesel stole their trucks electronically, set off to find them, which makes Bill and Ben play a trick on Diesel engine named Boko. Luckily, Edward is there to settle the ruckus. I like this one. It's a funny one. I always laugh when Ben said truck stealer. That one was hilarious. So therefore, I'll give this one a 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Wrong Road. A mix-up with Gordon and Edward ends up sending both engines on the wrong lines with their evening trains, with Gordon ending up being teased by Bill and Ben. I gotta say, this is a funny episode. At the end, when Gordon says this, both narrators did a great job on Gordon's shocking voice. So with that said, 7 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Edward's exploits. Gordon and James thinks that Edward should give up and be preserved, but Edward does not give up. This is a great determination episode and has a message of you should never give up and always keep going no matter what. Even if you're defeating bosses from Undertale like Sans, Undying, and Papyrus, and even more. To be honest, the more I think about this, the better this episode gets. And it's no expectation. That is a 10 out of 10 for a best episode. Next episode, Percy's ghostly trick. Percy and Toby played a trick on Thomas to teach him a lesson after calling him a silly little engine after his ghost story. This is a good Halloween episode and not too much to think about it, so I'm calling this one a 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Next episode, Woolly Bear. Thomas thinks that Percy crawls like a caterpillar due to him being late with collecting hay along the line. When Percy ends up covered in trickling hay, Thomas and Toby end up making jokes about him. Another good episode, I'll be honest, Thomas' hot-headed character kinda took too far away, but not too far away, even though the two of them make jokes about woolly bears, so they're not making fun of Percy at all. So I don't see that. I'll give this one a 8 out of 10 for a good episode. Last but not least, Thomas and the missing Christmas tree. Thomas is sent to collect a Christmas tree, but he ends up getting lost along the way home. Donald and Douglas set out to rescue him in time for the celebration of Christmas. This is a good episode. Not too much to say, even though it's a 8 out of 10 for a great episode. And that is it for Thomas the Friend Season 2 Review Remastered. Let's take a look at the pie chart. So in my opinion, Season 2 had 26 good episodes, 0 meh episodes, and 0 bad episodes. Wow, this is the same as Season 1 does. And I know why many people think this season was their favorites, because of the most episodes involve action, fast-paced, funny, and narration, and diesel engines appear in this season. Let's get to my top 5 favorite episodes of Season 2. Number 5, The Deputation. A nice, funny episode at the end where all the engines go nuts about it. Number 4, The Diesel. A great comedy episode where Bill and Ben plays on tricks on Boko. Number 3, Old Iron, a solid runaway episode. Number 2, A Close Shave for Duck, a fast-paced episode where it doesn't feel rushed at all. And number 1 is Edward's Exploits, a nice message or moral of never giving up and always keep pushing forward. And now, let's talk about the narration in this season. Ringo Starr, his narration did a great job after in Season 1. In this season, he has more energy of the characters and had less shouting lines like Duck Takes Charge, Diesel's Devious Deeds, and etc. So for Ringo Starr's narration this season, I'll say I'll give his narration a 9 out of 10. And as for George Carlin, his narration was great though. He had a lot of energy in this season, in a lot of episodes like All Iron, Duck Takes Charge, Ron Road, and etc. For George Carlin's narration, I'll give his narration a 10 out of 10. Let's get on to the notes. So the first note is, this season introduces diesel engines. I like how they introduced diesel engines in this season. Like season 1, I thought they introduced steam engines, but now it was Diesel's turn. The second note is that the camera angle move. In season 1, the camera angle moves slow in some bit episodes. But for season 2, some of the episodes got a camera angle move, and I love how the team do it, so good job to them. The third note is that some of the episodes are fast paced. It is, and it doesn't feel a bit too rushed, like I said. There's some fast paced episodes like a close Schaefer Duck, All Iron, and a Diesel. The fourth note is that some of the 2 episodes were pushed to season 3 before not being aired in this season. There's one episode that will fit in the season, that will be Percy's Promise, because that episode should have aired after Percy's plunge, because of how Percy's story, how he managed to do it, and just by keeping his promise. The fifth and last note that I want to add is that starting for the episode called Pop Goes the Diesel, the laughing sound effect from the troublesome trucks was heard. That sound effect was later unused in the following series. I like it. It sounds a bit too nerdy as the trucks laugh, but even though Mike and Junior make the laughing sound effect of the troublesome trucks, and I do like it. For some people, the laughing sound effect would annoy them, but for me, I don't mind when watching those episodes. And that's it for the note. So here we are at the final thoughts. So, what do I think about season 2? Season 2 is a best season no matter how good it is, especially when there's action, fast-paced narration that have a lot of energy, like Ringo or George, and some funny moments in the episode as well. I gotta say, I'll be giving season 2 a 10 out of 10 for a best season. So that's it for the season 2 review remastered. Next up will be season 3, but I'm not gonna review that one because season 21 is the one that I'll be reviewing next year, hopefully on January, so that'll be good. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like it, please leave a like, subscribe my second and my first channels, join me on my Discord server to become the Deckard Squad, join my Patreon to get early access on early previews on Thomas Friends reviews and more. Peace out.